But, the back and forth of this and the promo that Samoa Joe cut afterwards, the Samoa Joe press conference, everything about this screams champion. Everything about him screams champion. Everywhere he's gone, he's been a champion. So I think this is the right move that AEW is putting the strap on him. And I'm happy for Samoa Joe. The guy deserves it. He has always been, when I have followed him in the WWE days and obviously AEW days, I didn't watch too much TNA, but I've liked him. He's another one of those just thick hoss guys that is athletic and one of the better talkers on the mic too. And man, he can go. And so what he said for his mission statement with the championship has got me excited. And to piggyback what you said, mine season premiere, new champ, new opponents, new, open challenges, bring it on. You have a new leader in the back and leading the way with AEW, and it's got me excited, and it got me really excited for Dynamite yesterday.
Very different championship vibe than MJF for sure.
Yes,
big time. Excuse me for a moment. I have to do something.
Oh no. Oh.
That's awesome.
Mine
is gonna kill you. I love it, dude. That is awesome, dude.
And I'm already sweating too.
That's fantastic.
All right, so now that he's champ, you got to wear that towel every show.
I love the towel now.
I love it. That is fantastic, man. You're always on point. Oh man!
I'm telling you though, this is
good.
And
that
again,
was good.
You said it like the promo that he cut, and everything. I'm so excited for. Joe's not looking back at MJF. Yeah. Joe is he's already called out Hangman, Swerve. There's going to be Wardlow. Archer's
calling him out online.
This is going to be tremendous. This is going to be the season premiere. The season is going to be, it's the season of the Joe, and I think we're going to have a lot of really cool matches. And I think this is the guy. And not that MGF wasn't the guy, but it was time. And I think there's going to be so much to milk out of this. And I do think that this was it. I understand that there wasn't much pomp and circumstance for him winning, but I don't think we wanted the resolution of the devil, and we got that. It was such a great.
It fits Joe's vibe too. I mean, Joe is not one to be like that. Joe is a no nonsense. He's a killer, dude. Joe's not going to stand around and have champagne and have balloons and streamers. That's not Joe, man.
I want the confetti.
Sorry, buddy. That's not Joe.
Confetti, dude.
Come on, babyface needs some confetti.
Joe's not a babyface by any stretch. I'm sorry. I mean, he's not
me being the babyface wants the
confetti. Yes, I get it. Yes,
when I win at Revolution, I want confetti.
You're a Young Bucks mark, and you would have streamers on every match if you could. I understand. I get it.
Absolutely.
This definitely feels like it's again new direction, new year, new direction. MJF talked about it in his sort of piece de resistance, that whole article that he wrote, how there was some MJF fatigue, and I think some of it came out in this match, dude, where it's just the kangaroo kick and just the silliness, and I get it, it's super over, but some of it some of that silliness, you're gonna get a very, very different vibe from your AEW World Champion than what we saw out of Max, man. I mean, Joe is no nonsense. He is ruthless. He's intense on the mic. He's intense in the ring. I love that about Joe. His promo that he talked about, where he cut on Max about how Max was willing to do anything he could, and you have flashbacks of when Max did beat Joe, choking him out with a chain, right? You have these things that now you see the motivations. Every good heel has to have good motivations for that drive them. And yes, they have to have, a little bit of a skewed worldview or a little bit of skewed perspective on those events. But Joe's reasoning why he would screw over Max and why he would be so fiercely intense about taking Max down makes perfect sense. And I'm geeked to see this champion going into 2024. Joe is going to bring a different vibe to the overall product, being your world champion. It is what it is.
look at what he has come from. He was doing commentary it was at WrestleMania, and they were raining, and he was just sitting there, just look at
Joe.
Look at where
Poncho
he's come
Joe.
from.
Yeah,
exactly.
Hey, and there was during that run at WWE. I mean, like there was that point when he felt
there's
like
your confetti.
when
SPD, there's your confetti.
More.
There you go, SPD.
Finally giving Samoa Joe what he deserves, some confetti and streamers.
I'll leave it at that. The man deserves it.
So you guys, talking about the Joe, without getting too deep into it, what do you guys think? Let's, throw out 2 challengers you want to see. It doesn't matter if it's early on or Hangman's one.
You imagine how physical that would be, that match? That would be a hell of a matchup. What about you, Miro? Oh, you're looking for a good
Miro is
battle,
another.
huh?
Well, that's the thing. It's like Miro has little to no losses in AEW, and so to have a notch on that belt, yes, I am looking for a Hoss battle as well with that. So I would love to see Miro versus Samoa Joe as one.
I like that as a good idea too. Just to jump on your point is, especially what happened at World's End, right? Like CJ Perry turns on Andrade, goes all in with her husband Miro, and now Miro, with his wife by his side, I personally think that like they work great together on screen, and that AEW should lean into those two as a pairing. I think that Miro has a long history with CJ Perry on screen, where those two just have a great connection. They have a great charisma, and it would be a great story to tell that now that they're together, she can help behind the scenes to get him those opportunities that he's longed for, right? And he's deserved, as you said, a guy who's been dominant in AEW but just hasn't gotten those opportunities. She could be the one who's campaigning for it. They could go on a little mini run, and Miro could easily establish himself as a believable challenger to Joe. And that visual of Joe and Miro standing toe-to-toe in the ring, two just absolute monsters, would be pretty badass.
Have we had Samoa Joe versus Moxley?
I don't think so.
Can you imagine that?
Well, here's the thing. We talked about Moxley.
Let everyone.
We talked about Moxley earlier. I'm sure you saw it on Twitter Space, Myndrunner, but Moxley in his last 11 matches, I think it was his last 11 matches on pay-per-views or specials, he's 2-11.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hard to believe, whether it be singles or teams, when Moxley has been so untouchable, which he's still, now it's becoming he's doing more for the brand itself. I mean, he bleeds AEW, no pun intended, through and through. And I love that he is okay with, passing the torch like he did with Eddie Kingston on the pay-per-view, and has others already. So Moxley, I think, is due for, and Danielson, I think, are due for some big wins coming up this year. Like,
they are.
They need to get some refocused.
BCC has definitely taken some losses of late, and I think that they could both use a little bit of extra push into the 2024.
Right.
You asked me who I'd like to see. I do like the Miro idea. I think that Hangman with Swerve feels like those two are going at each other, and so I'll say, I'll be honest with you, and this is just off the cuff. I'll say I would like to see Jay White against Samoa Joe, and the main reason why I say that is I do feel like, and I think that Jay White kind of feels this way. His title shot against Max, it didn't sit right with me. Jay White versus Max, that feud didn't work out the way that I thought it could have. It didn't really give White an opportunity to show himself as a main event top guy, because Max was so silly, and Max undercuts people in a way on his promos Max, like the tofu stuff, they just didn't gel together as opponents. In my opinion, I just didn't feel like those two worked very well together. I think that Samoa Joe's more intense, competition-focused mentality would fit much more with Jay White's vibe. And I personally am really I'm a big Jay White mark, and I think that
I'll second that.
I think he deserves another a shot with a serious champion who isn't out to just get laughs and pot shots from the crowd. A guy who really will push him. And I although I like the Hoss battle that you guys presented, I mean, Hangman versus Joe would be a slugfest. Miro versus Joe would be an absolute Hoss battle. I do kind of dig some of that like small guy, big guy vibe, and it would be kind of cool to see Jay White, a very cerebral wrestler, a very smart wrestler, a guy who's more than willing to take shortcuts, but kind of wins a lot because of his mind, not his body more so. To have him kind of have to try to figure out the beast that is Samoa Joe. I would be all for it.
You could say the same about Swerve too.
Yeah.
I mean, this could absolutely be, put Joe on a rampage of just going through, shredding through people and then get to Swerve. And Swerve could be that same thing. How do I slay the beast? How do I go around him? And I think, that's another story. And of course, 2024, I think we all agree Swerve's got to get some gold.
He's got to be world champion at some point. Yeah.
I mean, fantasy booking, I mentioned it on one of our previous show, but fantasy booking right here, I'm calling it. And I think Swerve dethroned Samoa at Wembley.
Wow.
As becoming the hottest baby face. I mean, an 8-month title run is kind of on the shorter end. Yes, Jericho had about a half a year. MJF, obviously the longest one, but you give Samoa Joe 8 months. Which is a great title run to have some awesome feuds. And then Swerve, I mean, what we're seeing out of Swerve and Hangman, like to me, we'll talk. I think we should touch on Swerve and Hangman, and then we'll get into our draft so we can make sure we have our added picks on there. But I think that 8-month run will be fantastic and, make Samoa Joe kind of that untouchable beast champion. Going through that and Swerve just getting that slow. I mean, he has like so much momentum behind him as it is. Just more and more and more momentum for it just to be the ultimate payoff. It almost like what would remind me of. I always go back to that because Hangman, the momentum behind him and the uphill battle that he had, and then the ultimate payoff when he won the championship. It felt like one of the pinnacle moments of AEW. In terms of being a championship winning moment, and I think that Swerve could have that moment in Wembley. If anyone followed some of that New Japan stuff, what happened last night, Ospreay is calling out Mox again. He said this battle's not over. So if you have Ospreay versus Mox at Wembley, preferably sooner because I want it now. But if you hold off to Wembley, that is a mega. Those two matches are enough to sell a card.
Imagine everybody in Wembley doing the Swerve.
Yeah, they will. They will do it.
Huge. Yes.